Tonight, new fallout after a 13 News Now investigation. A special prosecutor will now examine issues we've uncovered about signatures on a petition in the 2nd District congressional race. Investigative reporter Laura Geller looked into the legitimacy of signatures on those petitions to get independent Shaun Brown on the ballot. And just hours ago, a Virginia Beach judge appointed the Roanoke Commonwealths attorney to look into the questions. Laura.
Well, in this order, a Virginia Beach judge writes there is a pending investigation regarding potential violations of the Code of Virginia. Virginia Beach prosecutor Colin Stolley says they include potential violations of election laws and forgery, concerns we first told you about yesterday.
It was a shock.
Shock, questions, and now an investigation into signatures that are raising eyebrows. They are on a petition of qualified voters to get Shaun Brown on the ballot.
It's totally different. It can't possibly be written by the same person.
Bet Cake told us yesterday this looks nothing like her dead husband's signature on the petition. Plus, Richard Stewart Cake passed away in April. His widow wants to know how then could he possibly have signed this document in June.
I'm personally hurt and very frustrated that my beloved husband would have his name used that way.
Eileen Eady moved away from Virginia Beach in 2013, but somehow her name, signature, and old address appeared on this petition too.
I thought that's impossible. I can't have signed any petition on June 9th. I was living here in Las Vegas and running for school board.
Our investigation showed you the signatures gathered by one of Republican incumbent Scott Taylor's staffers were not signed by the actual people they claim to be. Yesterday, Taylor told us,
I have no idea how it got there.
Just a couple hours ago, new details. Taylor sent out a statement saying he terminated the relationship with a campaign manager several weeks ago for separate issues. But current knowledge underscores that decision. We now know it has also prompted him to fire his campaign consultant. Taylor writes, my campaign has a zero-tolerance policy for inappropriate activities. We also told you the signature collector has to sign an affidavit swearing he or she witnessed each person actually sign the petition. Falsely signing that document is a felony. The prosecutor out of Roanoke will be the person to examine whether or not that happened to determine if any charges are necessary and prosecute those potential charges. And we reached out to Donald Caldwell in Roanoke by phone and email to ask how this investigation will proceed. We haven't heard back from him just yet. Laura Geller, 13 News Now.
Now, to give you some background on the man heading the investigation, Roanoke Commonwealth's attorney Donald Caldwell earned a degree from VMI. A member of the Army Reserve from 1973 to 2004, he has served as the city's Commonwealth's attorney since 1979. In 2015, he ran as an independent for District 21 of the Virginia State Senate. His campaign focused on pre-kindergarten education, access to health care, transportation, infrastructure, and the state's energy economy.